This is episode 17 of Spiritual AF with Pixie Rose, the podcast for people going on their spiritual journey, knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Today's episode is all about affirmations and gratitude. These are two spiritual practices that I believe everybody needs to incorporate into their life. If not daily, at least at some point within your journey. When we talk about affirmations, it's hard not to talk about Louise Hay. And my introduction to affirmations was definitely from Louise Hay. If you haven't heard of Louise Hay or read her book, You Can Heal Your Life, then you are definitely missing out. And you need to access this ASAP. Louise Hay has had an incredible story. She created Hay House Publishing House, where all the best books are published. She actually began a lot of her work by working with the gay community in San Francisco and working with a lot of people around healing AIDS. Louise Hay also healed her own body from cancer by using affirmations. Louise Hay was a pioneer in understanding and sharing metaphysics. The definition of metaphysics is a division of philosophy that is concerned with the fundamental nature of reality and being that includes ontology, which examines the nature of reality, cosmology, which is a theory or doctrine describing the natural order of the universe, and often epistemology, which is how you can examine reality. The easy way to describe metaphysics is the emotional root cause of physical manifestations, which means that our physical problems are occurring because of emotional issues. So Louise Hay had a belief that every physical issue, illness, or disease was caused by a specific emotional problem. She also believed that affirmations were a really incredibly powerful way to heal these emotional problems. Her book, You Can Heal Your Life, is like a Bible to me. And I buy every copy that I come across in the op shop because I often gift this book to people in my life. In the book, it has an A to Z guide of all the physical issues that you could be having and an emotional reason to why that could be happening, as well as an affirmation to help heal it. So part of Louise Hay's philosophy is that we are each responsible for our experiences and that every thought that we think is creating our reality. This can be a disempowering idea or an empowering idea because you are in control of your experience and you create your experience as well as your reality. Which means if you are unhappy with your reality, you have the power to change it. You have the power to heal, and your body is incredible and beautifully interlinked with the mind and the spirit. And in focusing on your mindset and your self-love, then this will have a direct impact on your physical health and wellness. Louise Hay believes we should release our past and forgive everyone in our life. And that self-approval and self-acceptance were the key to positive changes within our life. So Louise Hay created this holistic philosophy, more or less, in that the mind, body, and spirit were interlinked, and that if one area was lacking, then the others would suffer. Louise Hay started her work in the 70s or the 80s, so really before a lot of people and before New Age was really a thing, which is part of why she created her own publishing agency to help create New Age and self-help books. Louise Hay had a belief that we choose our parents and we choose our experiences for a reason. Louise Hay believed that almost every problem stemmed from a belief of not being good enough, and that by using these affirmations, we could stop believing that we're not good enough. Forgiveness is a big part of the work that Louise Hay did, and the affirmations are a lot around love and forgiveness. I should also mention that Louise Hay passed away only a short couple of years ago. She had a belief that even if we didn't believe the affirmation at first, after saying it every day for a period of time, that we would start to believe this, just as we do with negative thoughts. So after people say something to you, for an example, people calling you dumb. So after a certain amount of time of having this experience, being told that you are dumb, we may believe that we are in fact dumb. There's a lot of really beautiful exercises that you can do in the You Can Heal Your Life book, which I highly recommend. So one of my introductions to Louise Hay was I actually bought an audio book of affirmations, which I listened to in the car. And I'm sure you can do this just by YouTubing, or there may even be an app for affirmations now. But when my son was a baby, he was a notoriously bad sleeper. The best way that I could get him to sleep was by driving around in the car. So I would literally drive around until he fell asleep, sometimes singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And then once he was asleep, I would put on my Louise Hay Affirmations CD, and I would just sort of sit there in the car or drive around doing these affirmations. There was definitely some affirmations that I really struggled with. I had issues with my parents back then, and one of the affirmations is, I love my parents and my parents love me. And that felt really hard for me to say in that period of my life. Louise Hay covers all of this in the book when you experience a resistance to change, because we are the only blockers to ourselves and our inner healing. So here's some examples of physical issues that manifest from an emotional issue. So acne is not accepting the self or dislike of the self. Addictions are running from the self, a fear or not knowing how to love the self. Louise Hay believed that AIDS was from feeling defenselessness and helpless, and that no one cares. Also a denial of the self and sexual guilt. Alcoholism is a feeling of guilt and inadequacy and self-rejection, denying your own power. Anxiety is not trusting the flow and the process of life. Arthritis is from feeling unloved or feeling criticized or resentful. And this is also, we can look into ancestral healing when some of these issues are actually within the family bloodline. Often it is an emotional ancestral healing that needs to be done here. Asthma is when you're feeling smothered or an inability to breathe for oneself or suppressing love. Back problems, and this was definitely one for me, it means a lack of support. And it was really amazing because when I was doing these affirmations, I was married and unhappy, and I had chronic back pain that I had been experiencing for many years of my life. And then as soon as I left my husband and moved into my own place, my back problems just magically disappeared. I no longer experienced back pain. So sometimes the body will need a lifestyle change of some sort to resolve the physical issue. So that was a very clear example that physical problems being an emotional issue for me. Louise Hay believes that cancer was created from long-standing resentment, deep secrets or grief, eating away at oneself, and really a hatred of oneself. Things like constipation are refusing to release old ideas or being stuck in the past. Leg issues, not moving forward with your life. Issues with your ears is the capacity to hear or not hearing someone or angry over what you're hearing. Obesity or excess fat or being overweight represents a need to protect oneself. And when these problems show up with children, there's theories and suggestions that it may be the parents' emotional issues that have been passed on to the children, which I have also seen within my kids as well. So anytime somebody in my life has any sort of physical issue that they don't know what is the cause, I often look it up in my Louise Hay Bible. So this work from Louise Hay has been around since the 80s, as I mentioned, and it is just so powerful. But I do believe we are evolving. Julia Cannon, who is the daughter of Dolores Cannon, involved with the quantum healing hypnosis training, she has also written an incredible book called Soul Speak. So within the quantum healing method, when the subconscious is asked why someone is experiencing a physical discomfort, there were some things that didn't quite line up with Louise Hay's theories. And what Julia found was that the right side of the body was accurate within Louise Hay's ideas, and that the physical problems were emotional causes in this lifetime. But if you are having physical issues within the left side of your body, that is a past life issue. There were particular Louise Hay affirmations that I would say daily, and I would write some of them on my mirror, and I found using affirmations to be really powerful, especially throughout that time of leaving an unhappy marriage. And then once I left that unhappy marriage, gratitude was the other thing. It was a really powerful tool and practice in taking the next step in my life. So I used the affirmations to get where I wanted to get, and I had this sense of more happiness and fulfillment in my life from using the affirmations. So in my marriage, I felt like I was trapped in a relationship that I didn't want to be in. But then once I was out on my own, then I became so resentful. And I really struggled to not resent my ex-husband. So I challenged myself to a 30-day gratitude challenge, and I would love it if this is resonating for you. If you want to take on this challenge, make sure you tag me, share it on Instagram, and tag me at Spiritual AF the podcast. Especially if you are going through a difficult time in your life, if you're going through a divorce or a breakup or something like that. Even the global issues that we're having at the moment, with Melbourne still in lockdown and having many freedoms taken away, and I know that there are many other places similar to Melbourne that are experiencing similar issues within their government and different restrictions being put in place. So sometimes it's been really hard to find something to be grateful for. But throughout my 30-day gratitude challenge, I realized that I was at rock bottom in my life. I was pregnant on my own with a toddler. My little boy was 15 months old when I left my husband. And I was so upset with what my life had become. Because before then, I had achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. I'd always been a goal-orientated person. And I've always worked really hard for my life. And for a long time, I thought that I was doing really well in life. Like I thought that I was a success in life. I did all these amazing things, like I'd met somebody, fell in love, traveled around Europe together, got engaged, bought a house. I'd studied and got a bit of a dream job for myself at that point in working in mental health. And I know that might sound strange for some people, but I was so proud of myself for working in mental health, doing the work that I was doing, and I absolutely loved it. I was so passionate about it. So we got married, had a baby, and in securing that job in mental health, I was able to have maternity leave. We did everything that society tells you to do, and yet I was deeply unhappy with my life. And I was just at that rock bottom state where I didn't know where to go with my life anymore. So then going down this spiritual path, I really understood the power of affirmations and gratitude. And I was doing my affirmations every day. And then it came to the gratitude part of things. And I honestly really struggled. So some days, the only thing that I was grateful for was having a dishwasher. My gratitude was for really, really simple things. And some days it was even hard just to find one thing that I was grateful for, because I just had so much resentment and anger over being alone with my child and having a second baby on the way. I had to get onto Centrelink, which I had a lot of shame about. I had lost my friends during that time as well. I had so much shame in that, and just my journey to finding happiness seemed to look like being a failure in life. So I practiced gratitude and I found one thing to be grateful for. And then when I realized that I had very little to be grateful for, I was able to have that awareness that I was at rock bottom in my life. And I was able to stop spiritually bypassing and accept that I was deeply disappointed in my life and that I was in the void. So what I mean by spiritual bypassing, and I'd love to do probably a whole episode just on this as well, is I would share with the people in my life, oh yes, I'm pregnant, oh I've recently left my husband and I'm alone with my child, I never get time to myself. But I would sort of have this probably like toxic positivity about it. And people would sort of say to me, gosh, you're doing really well with, yeah, I can't believe you're going through so much and you seem so positive about it. Whereas that wasn't my truth. I was thinking that I was being spiritual by having a positive outlook on my life, whereas in fact I was totally spiritually bypassing and I was completely at a rock bottom point in my life. But the great thing about rock bottom, as Erin spoke about in the last episode, is that the only way for me was up after that. So you hit rock bottom, there's no way that things could have gotten any worse. And I'm sure they could have, but, that was my perception of my own rock bottom, was being divorced, getting onto Centrelink, losing all my friends, yeah. And then after 30 days of practicing gratitude, I actually became more grateful and appreciative of my life, rather than having all this resentment over what I didn't have. And I started to wake up to the fact that I actually did have a lot to be grateful for. I gained a lot of perspective on my life from practicing gratitude. I was then able to piece back my life together again and work out what I did want in life. I already tried the typical married life with kids and the 9-to-5 job. And I realized I did want something different. And by practicing these affirmations and this gratitude was my way that I was able to start living authentically. I realized that I was unhappy in my marriage because it wasn't authentic to me. And it helped me to realize that I didn't have to live the same kind of life that everyone else did. And it was okay for me not to be happy with something that other people would be happy about. I realized from practicing gratitude that I didn't need to settle in my life and that I could actually have a fucking incredible life, a life that I choose. And that was so powerful to me. And ever since then, I promised myself that I would never settle, and I haven't since. And it was probably once my daughter was born, so she was like that missing piece in my life. And once she was born, I had so much gratitude. I had so much gratitude that I did meet my ex-husband and that we were able to create these beautiful children. I had this realization that that was the purpose of that experience and that my marriage wasn't a failure, because to create these incredible little souls that I just loved so much was the greatest blessing in my whole life. And then I had so much gratitude towards my ex-husband. After that, I had gratitude for my children and their health rather than complaining about not getting enough sleep or time to myself. And I had so much gratitude for myself and my strengths. That helped me to move forward in my life. So when my life was really hard and depressing, having gratitude helped me so much. So if you're going through something really difficult at the moment, give affirmations a go. Find some gratitude in your day, and I can assure you it will transform your life. Thank you for listening to this episode of Spiritual AF. Please don't forget to follow this podcast. Don't forget we release a new episode every Friday. And for more interdimensional conversations on all things life, death, and everything in between, don't forget, even if your wings have been clipped off, they can always regrow.